After more than 2 weeks of protest following the death of George Floyd, a number of police departments across the country have announced new measures. In Buffalo, where a violent interaction with a protester caused outrage, today the mayor announced a number of new efforts, shifting policing, quote, away from enforcement and to a restorative model that promotes stronger community bonds. And in Minneapolis, where the head of the police union compared protesters to terrorists, the police chief today announced an end to negotiations with the union. But in a city where the mayor was booed away from a rally after he said he's against abolishing the police department, the future remains uncertain now that the city council has moved to do just that. So we're going to begin tonight by taking a closer look at the Minneapolis Police Department, the recent reforms it has already tried, and where the city goes from here. Our Alex Perez reports.
Something that's found in this space.
Protests in the Twin Cities, demanding answers from police, and calling for change. Only this isn't 2020, it's 2016, when Philando Castile was fatally shot by a police officer in a Minneapolis suburb while reaching for his ID at a traffic stop. His girlfriend live-streamed the encounter as she and her young daughter were in the car watching the horror unfold.
And the officer just shot him in his arm.
In the nearly 4 years since, many feel the reform efforts by police and local leaders have fallen short, with George Floyd's death now evidence of that. According to this 2019 report from the Urban Institute tracking the efforts of 6 cities to improve their policing policies, Minneapolis has made major changes since 2016, including shifting its use of force policy to prioritize sanctity of life, requiring officers to intervene in situations where other officers use excessive force, and requiring officers to start their body cams the moment they respond to 911 calls. It's also increased transparency by tracking race and gender during stops and reporting use of force and arrest statistics online. But some experts say improvements like these don't do enough to address the deeper systemic issues in law enforcement.
The idea of police officers using violence against African Americans, Black and brown bodies has much more to do than just the implicit bias they harbor as a police officer. It is part of the fabric of our very nation. So much of our criminal legal system and our other institutions in this country, you can draw an unbroken thread between them and slavery. And that definitely plays out in the way that police officers interact with Black and brown individuals.
And the increased transparency has revealed a disturbing disparity. While Minneapolis is roughly only 20% Black, Blacks account for nearly 60% of all use of force cases since 2015, according to the city's own data. And Black people were 7 times more likely to have force used against them than white people, according to that public data. Efforts from city and local leaders to improve officer training have also faced pushback by the city's police union and its leader, Bob Kroll, the union president penning a letter to members characterizing the protest as a terrorist movement and claiming that politicians are using cops as scapegoats. Last year, the union offered warrior-style police training online, even after Mayor Jacob Fry banned it.
That union bind is, we are together, we're a brotherhood, we're going to stick together no matter what. Well, you can't stick together in this situation. You need to stand up and say something that this is wrong. We're not going to tolerate it. And if you want to be a police officer in Minneapolis, you are not going to do this.
Police Chief Madaria Arredondo announcing today that the department will now withdraw from union negotiations and perform a comprehensive review of the contract.
Does the union protect bad cops?
I think the union has a historical obligation to look after their employees and fight for them. My thoughts as chief is that when we have employees who are engaged in misconduct and they should no longer be wearing this badge and serving our communities, I think the union plays a significant role in helping to contribute to the public trust. But they have to stand up, they have to be doing that. And so we're going to be taking an absolute look at that.
You kind of answered it, but I'm not sure you did. You said the union protects its employees, but do they protect bad cops?
At times, absolutely they have. Absolutely they have.
Looking for concrete solutions and fearful Floyd's death wouldn't change the status quo, protesters sounded the battle cry to defund the police department, usually a call to reduce police budgets. Those cries were met with swift action by the Minneapolis City Council, who announced plans Sunday to officially disband the police force.
Our commitment is to end our city's toxic relationship with the Minneapolis Police Department.
The decision has sparked major controversy as tensions remain high. Minneapolis Mayor Fry taking heat the day before that for voicing his opposition to abolishing the police force altogether, favoring deep structural reform. But with a majority of city council in favor of disbanding the police department and replacing it with an alternative model to protect the public, the mayor can't veto, and the ball is now in their court, and they are adamant that there's a better way to ensure the city's safety.
We're going to create a fear-free future where every life is truly protected and respected.
Brooklyn College professor Alex Vitale, who has written about the need to defund police departments across the country, says there has been a need to shift funds from policing to community-based alternatives for quite some time.
I don't think this is about starting with flipping some switch and then there's no police and then we figure out what to do. What I'm suggesting is that we start developing specific community-based interventions in consultation with communities that we think will produce public safety in ways that will allow us to reduce our reliance on policing.
Camden, New Jersey is arguably one of the nation's biggest success stories of doing just that. After years of struggling with crime, the city dismantled its police force in 2013 and made the shift toward community policing to rebuild trust with residents. The result? In 2017, the police reported the lowest murder rates the city has seen since 1987. Officers are trained to reach for their guns or handcuffs only as a last resort.
So it was holding people accountable, saying what we mean and meaning what we say to the community. And all of this, from the doing pop-up barbecues and ice cream giveaways on corners to showing people that we hold our officers accountable, every single one of those interactions were deposits into the relationship account with the community.
But some critics caution that defunding police departments too soon could cause more harm than good.
I think that certainly abolishing and defunding police departments is counterproductive and incredibly unpopular and puts a lot of people who depend on police for public safety at risk. And those people generally aren't the ones advocating for defunding police departments. If we could provide services for mental health care so cops weren't called, cops would love that. The problem is we're not providing those services and cops are called because no one else is there to do the job. And the idea that services will magically fill the gap, even if funded better, we don't see that. What we need to do is not put the cart in front of the horse. Let's set up those social services. And as soon as demand for police drops, then we can talk about fewer cops.
The Minneapolis City Council has yet to release further details or a timeline for dissolving the police force. For now, the city has officially banned the use of chokeholds and has required other officers to report when excessive force is used during a police stop and can face discipline for failing to intervene.
I think these last 4 years between Philando Castile's murder and George Floyd's have shown us that police reform doesn't go far enough. And this groundswell of public demonstrations, obviously not just in Minnesota, but across this country, have called for transformational change.
Still a long road ahead to mend the wounds of another Black life lost, and the community still searching for answers.
And Alex Perez joins us now live from Minneapolis. Alex, after speaking with the chief today and hearing his plans for reform, how are things expected to move forward, considering the city council's plans to disband the department entirely?
Well, Diane, the fact of the matter is the city council has overwhelmingly voted to dismantle the police department, but that still may be a long ways ahead. It's unclear how exactly that would happen. It's unclear if the city's charter even allows for that to happen. So the police chief here says despite all that, he's moving forward with making changes to the police department. He says today's changes are just the beginning. He expects to make several announcements in the weeks to come. Diane.
And Alex, I understand you have some new reporting tonight about two of the officers charged in the Floyd case. What do we know?
Yeah, Diane, a couple of things we've learned tonight. One of the rookie officers, Thomas Lane, has posted bail, $750,000, and has been released. You'll remember he's one of the officers that, in court through his attorneys, shifted blame to Officer Derek Chauvin, the veteran officer who was on the scene. Chauvin is the officer seen in that horrific video on top of Floyd. And also today, Diane, we learned a bombshell of sorts that Chauvin actually was negotiating a plea deal with prosecutors up until May 28th, the moment when prosecutors were about to have a press conference to talk about it. But that plea deal fell through. According to the prosecutor's office who I talked to, they were negotiating a deal for him to plead guilty to federal charges and to plead guilty to murdering George Floyd, but that deal fell through, and as we all know now, he's been charged with second-degree murder. Diane?
All right, Alex Perez in Minneapolis tonight. Alex, thanks.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.